Hello. What I'm working on today is a 97 Ford Ranger. This is a two-wheel drive Ford Ranger. It's got a 2.3 liter engine in it. But anyway, what had happened is a friend of ours pulled up and it looked like the front passenger side tire had a lot of camber to it when he pulled in. And then I noticed that the hubcap was really hot. The wheel was really hot as well. And so I brought it in the garage and I pulled the wheel off, planning on at least changing the brakes, but I knew right away when there was a lot of slop in the wheel as you moved it back and forth before I even loosened the lug nuts that the wheel bearing was shot. So anyway, I've tore into this wheel bearing, and there's a lot of good videos out there to show you how to change a wheel bearing. I'm not going to go through all the steps that I'm doing to change this wheel bearing out. You'll have to watch one of the other ones for help on that. But one thing that I did want to mention on this particular model is the rotor hub assembly was about $45. We bought it at O'Reilly's, or $47, I believe. But one thing I wanted to mention is I was a little bit leery about having to drive these bearing outer races in to the hub assembly, just because I know without going straight or having something perfect in diameter to hammer that down, that you can get it in cattywampus, and it just really, you got to fight it the whole way, and it's not good if you don't get it going in right, or if you don't have the right tools to press that in. But what I wanted to mention to you is what I had just noticed after I was getting ready to press the new bearings in that I bought. Here's the small outside bearing. It was like $4 and something at O'Reilly's. I don't know if it's got a part number on here or not, but that's the small bearing. It's just under $5 for that bearing. And then I bought the bigger bearing here as well. That's the oil and grease seal. I went ahead and bought a new one of those, but don't necessarily have to. And then here's the inner bearing. It's the bigger bearing of the two. But one thing I noticed as I was getting ready to press these new bearings into the rotor hub assembly is that the outer race, they have already got pressed in there for you, so you don't have to worry about that. That makes it really nice. So then all you have to do basically is just slide this outer race. I don't know if you can see that, but that outer race, mine's still in the package, that outer race slides right off, and you can discard that because the outer race is already in. And the same goes for both sides, inner and outer. So if you're concerned, if you're doing it yourself and you don't really have the right tools or the right setup, all you have to do is just, like I said, just discard this outer race right here because it is already pressed in. Thought you would be happy to hear that. Another thing I want to add is when you go to put the hub assembly, once the bearings and stuff are in there, back on to the axle, don't forget this washer. That washer is what, it's a thrust washer. That's what preloads those roller bearings in there, or not roller bearings, but needle bearings in there. So do not forget that. Whoever put the last bearings in here left that off, and is probably why it failed so quickly. The washer will go on there like that just before the nut goes on. The other thing that may be good to know is that that nut that puts the preload on the roller bearings is a 27 millimeter nut. So if you don't have a 27 millimeter socket, you can always use a pair of vice grips and then another crescent wrench or something to tighten that on, or taking it off. You don't really need a socket simply because it does not get torqued down very tight at all, just a few foot-pounds. And there's videos out there that show you how to tighten it, but you don't necessarily have to have a 27 millimeter socket to get the job done.